You feel it. That subtle, almost imperceptible sensation that you are being watched. It's not paranoia, it's not imagination. It's something more primitive, more instinctive, a perception that crosses the skin and touches the soul. You turn slowly, following the silent impulse, and there it is. The cat, sitting on the armchair on the windowsill in the corner of the room, completely still. Its eyes fixed on you with an intensity that cuts through the air. How long had it been there? How long had it been watching you? The instant your eyes meet, it looks away, as if it had been caught red-handed, as if it had finished a silent analysis that you didn't even know was happening. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote something that might explain this phenomenon. The true measure of a man is how he behaves when no one is watching. And perhaps cats, with that ancestral wisdom that we don't need to understand to respect, are the guardians of this truth. They watch you when you can't pretend, when you are distracted, lost in thought, simply being who you are without the social mask. When you let your guard down and your soul becomes visible. Marcus Aurelius knew that life constantly tests us through what we ignore. And there is something about cats, creatures that live between two worlds, domestic but wild, present but mysterious, that makes them perfect agents of these invisible tests. Observe that everything is opinion, he wrote. But when a cat looks at you like that, there is no opinion. There is pure observation, silent analysis, direct perception of who you are when you think no one is watching. It doesn't judge, it documents. It documents the version of you that exists in moments of carelessness, the personality that emerges when you are not performing, the soul that appears when you forget to hide it. And perhaps that is exactly what makes this look so disturbing, the suspicion that it sees something in you that you yourself do not perceive. Or worse, that it sees something that you perceive but prefer to ignore. Marcus Aurelius understood that the greatest teachings come through silent observation, and cats, masters of contemplation, seem to have learned this lesson better than most humans. They don't need to speak to communicate. They don't need to move to act. They don't need to judge to teach. They just observe. And in observation, they reveal. This is the uncomfortable truth that Marcus Aurelius knew. You are constantly being observed, not by external forces that want to control you, but by life itself that wants to know you. And sometimes this observation comes through feline eyes that capture who you are in the moments when you forget to be who you should be. There's something disturbing about that look, isn't there? It's not the direct look. You can sustain that, respond to it, even challenge it. It's the hidden look, the look you discover by accident, the look that was happening without you knowing. And the moment you realize it, there is a silent question that echoes. What else are you not seeing about yourself? Marcus Aurelius spent his life cultivating what he called prosoche, the vigilant attention to oneself. Watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. But he also knew that there are aspects of ourselves that can only be perceived through external eyes. And cats, with their natural ability for disinterested observation, become involuntary mirrors of our unedited truth. When you're alone, doing something that no one sees, perhaps grumbling at the news, perhaps being impatient with a simple task, perhaps behaving in a way that you would never admit publicly, the cat is watching, not with moral judgment, but with scientific curiosity, as if it were studying a fascinating specimen, the human in its natural habitat, without performing for an audience. Marcus Aurelius understood that most people live fragmented between who they are and who they think they should be. And this fragmentation creates a constant tension, a dissonance that reverberates in all interactions. But when you are distracted, when your mind is focused on something specific, when you are not consciously being someone, the fragmentation temporarily disappears. You become one. Not necessarily better or worse, just true. And it is this truth that the cat captures with its silent gaze. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, Marcus Aurelius wrote. But what if the quality of your thoughts can only be truly assessed when you are not consciously controlling them? When you are washing dishes and your mind wanders? When you are watching TV and react instinctively to something? When you're alone and behave exactly as you are, without filters, without editing, without masks? These are the moments that the cat documents, and there is something deeply uncomfortable about knowing that there is a silent witness to your least conscious moments. A presence that has seen you in all your contradictions, inconsistencies, vulnerabilities. Marcus Aurelius cultivated an exercise he called constant self-observation, the practice of keeping a part of consciousness, always observing one's own internal processes. But even the philosopher-emperor knew that there are limits to what we can observe about ourselves. There are blind spots. There are patterns that only reveal themselves through unconscious repetition. There are aspects of personality that emerge only when we think we are alone. And perhaps the cat that watches you in silence is an involuntary teacher of these hidden aspects of your nature. Have you ever wondered what it saw? In the moments when you are completely absorbed in something, completely unguarded, completely yourself. What version of you emerges when there is no audience? What personality manifests when you don't need to impress anyone? What character appears when you forget to have character? Marcus Aurelius knew that these questions are crucial for the development of genuine virtue, because performative virtue is not virtue, it is theater. True virtue is that which emerges spontaneously when no one is watching. It is the kindness you demonstrate when there is no social reward. It is the patience you maintain when there are no witnesses. It is the integrity you preserve when there are no external consequences. And the cat saw all of that. It saw your moments of genuine compassion when you thought you were alone. It saw your little cruelties when you thought no one noticed. It saw your true relationship with loneliness, with boredom, with frustration. It saw who you are when you don't need to be anyone specific. And that look that you only notice by accident, carries with it all this silent documentation, not as an accusation, but as recognition. I recognize you. I know your contradictions. I have seen your humanity without filters. And yet, here I am. Marcus Aurelius taught that true wisdom begins with the honest recognition of who you really are. Not who you would like to be, not who you pretend to be, but who you effectively are when all the masks fall. And perhaps the cat that watches you in silence is an invitation to this radical honesty. An invitation to stop pretending that you don't know you are being watched. An invitation to look back, not at the cat, but at yourself. Julia has been working from home for 2 years. During video calls, she is professional, articulate, always with the proper posture. But Luna, her Persian cat, has the peculiar habit of positioning herself behind the computer and watching her during meetings. It was disturbing, Julia says. I felt her gaze, but I couldn't turn around because I was on camera, and I started to notice that she looked at me, especially when I was being fake, when I agreed with things I didn't believe in, or smiled when I was irritated. One day, Julia turned off the camera and turned around. Luna was there watching with that characteristic intensity of cats. It was as if she knew I was lying to myself. Daniel is a writer and spends hours alone in his office. Gus, his orange cat, has the habit of hiding behind the bookshelf and watching him work. Daniel only notices when he feels that sensation of being watched. He looks at me, especially when I'm procrastinating, Daniel laughs. When I'm pretending I'm working, but I'm actually surfing the internet or organizing unnecessary things. It's as if he knew how to distinguish between real work and theater. Marcus Aurelius understood that animals operate by instincts that capture truths that the rational mind often denies. They are not fooled by performances because they do not participate in the human social game of dissimulation. Patricia went through a period of silent depression. Externally, she maintained her routine, smiled at the neighbors, posted normal photos on social media. But Sombra, her black cat, developed a strange behavior. She would hide and watch her, especially during the moments when she thought she was okay. It was in the moments when I convinced myself that I was okay that she appeared, she recalls, as if she could feel the lie beneath the facade. She never looked at me when I was genuinely well, only when I was pretending to be. Luca is a therapist and prides himself on his ability to maintain emotional balance. But Minerva, his Siamese cat, has the habit of appearing and staring at him whenever he comes home from work, carrying tensions that he tries to hide from himself. She looks at me when I'm denying that the day was difficult, he noticed. When I'm making that internal speech that everything is fine, but my body is saying the opposite. It's as if she were an emotional lie detector. Eleanor takes care of her elderly mother with dementia. During the day, she is patient, caring, dedicated. But Felix, the family cat, has the habit of positioning himself strategically to watch her during the most difficult moments, especially when she feels anger or frustration that she cannot express. He looks at me when I'm at my limit, Elena confesses, when I'm smiling on the outside but screaming on the inside. It's as if he knew I was carrying more than I can handle, and needed a witness. Marcus Aurelius believed that genuine virtue can only be developed through honest self-observation, and perhaps cats, with their capacity for disinterested observation, are involuntary teachers of this honesty. Rodrigo is an executive at a multinational company. During meetings, he projects confidence and authority. But Onyx, his Angora cat, has a peculiar behavior. Whenever Rodrigo is rehearsing presentations at home, feigning a security he doesn't feel, the cat appears and watches him intensely. It was as if he knew I was acting, Rodrigo reflects. When I was genuinely confident, he ignored me completely. But when I was performing confidence, there he was, studying me with those eyes that seemed to say, "I know you know this is a lie." Maya is an artist and constantly struggles between creating what she loves and creating what she sells. Isis, her Egyptian cat, has the habit of watching her, especially when she is working on commercial projects that she despises but pretends to be enthusiastic about. She never looks at me when I'm painting what I really want, Maya noticed, but when I'm doing something just for the money, pretending I'm inspired, she appears and stares at me as if to say, "You are betraying your own soul." Tiago has been a university professor for 15 years. Externally, he loves his profession. But recently, he developed a tiredness that he tries to hide even from himself. Thor, his Maine Coon cat, started watching him especially when he is preparing classes, feigning enthusiasm for topics that no longer inspire him. He looks at me when I'm lying about being motivated, Tiago admits, when I'm repeating the same content mechanically, but trying to convince myself that I still feel passion for teaching. It's as if he could feel the dissonance between what I say and what I feel. Remember the first time you realized you were being watched? That moment when you turned around and found those eyes fixed on you, studying something you didn't even know you were revealing? The cat wasn't judging your contradictions. It was documenting your humanity. It was being a silent witness to the moments when you are exactly who you are, with all the flaws, all the inconsistencies, all the little lies you tell yourself. And perhaps that is the most important function they fulfill in our lives, to be mirrors that do not lie. Marcus Aurelius developed a practice he called the eye of the universe, the ability to observe oneself as if one were an external entity, impartial, stripped of ego and personal judgments. Look at yourself as if you were someone else, he advised. See your thoughts, actions, and motivations with the same clarity that you would see those of a stranger. And perhaps cats are natural manifestations of this practice. They watch you exactly as Marcus Aurelius recommended, without moral judgment, but with total attention. They are not worried about whether you are good or bad, right or wrong. They are simply documenting, this is what this human being does when they think no one is watching. The most divine quality is not to judge, Marcus Aurelius wrote, and there is something deeply divine in the way cats observe. They see your contradictions, your little hypocrisies, your moments of weakness, and they remain. They don't leave because you are not perfect. They don't abandon you because they discovered your flaws. They just observe. And in observation, they offer something rare, acceptance without approval. Marcus Aurelius understood that the greatest obstacle to personal growth is self-deception, the human capacity to lie to oneself, to rationalize harmful behaviors, to create narratives that protect the ego but prevent evolution. What man can hide his thoughts from himself, he asked, and the answer is, almost everyone. But it is difficult to hide behaviors from a silent observer who has no interest in protecting your illusions. The cat that watches you is not invested in the idealized version you have of yourself. It sees the real version, the one that emerges when you are not consciously being someone, and that real version is who you need to know to grow. Know thyself, said the Delphic maxim that Marcus Aurelius studied. But how can you truly know yourself if you have never seen yourself without filters? The cat's gaze is that removed filter. It is you seen by eyes that are not fooled by your rationalizations. It is your humanity documented without editing. Marcus Aurelius practiced an exercise he called nightly examination. Every night he mentally reviewed the day, observing his thoughts, emotions, and actions with brutal honesty. What kind of person was I today? What virtues did I practice? What vices did I allow? But there are limitations to this self-observation. There are cognitive blind spots. There are defense mechanisms that distort perception. There are aspects of personality that only reveal themselves in unconscious spontaneity. And the cat saw all of that. It saw you when you were too tired to keep up the mask. It saw you when you were too alone to perform. It saw you when you were too distracted to control. And what it saw was neither the saint nor the sinner of your fantasies. It was the human, complex, contradictory, real. Accept the things you cannot change, Marcus Aurelius taught. And perhaps the first thing you need to accept is who you really are when all the masks fall. Not to conform to limitations, but to work with the real raw material, not with the idealized version. The cat that watches you is not interested in who you could be or should be. It is documenting who you effectively are. And there is a strange freedom in this radical acceptance, the freedom to stop pretending, the freedom to stop hiding, the freedom to be observed completely and still be accepted. Marcus Aurelius knew that true virtue can only grow in soil of absolute honesty, and perhaps the silent gaze of cats is that soil, a place where you can be seen completely, without judgment, without rejection, just observation. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it, Marcus Aurelius wrote, and perhaps the first step to changing your thoughts is to allow them to be seen by the cat that watches you, and by you who finally has the courage to look back. Marcus Aurelius died on a military campaign far from his family, surrounded only by soldiers and doctors, but his last words were not about regrets or fears, they were about acceptance. Go in peace. You have lived well. He had learned to see himself through the eyes of the universe, without illusions, without self-pity, without the need to be perfect to be accepted. And perhaps that is the final lesson that the observing cat is trying to teach you. That you can be seen completely and still be worthy of company. You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this, and you will find strength, Marcus Aurelius wrote. And perhaps the most important external event that you cannot control is being observed. By the cat, by life, by yourself. The look you feel on your back is not paranoia, it's reality. You are constantly being observed, not by forces that want to control you, but by an intelligence that wants to know you. And the cat that stares at you when you're not looking is just the most obvious manifestation of that constant observation. The question is not how to avoid being seen. The question is, who do you want to be when you are seen? Marcus Aurelius developed an answer to this question that changed his life. I want to be exactly who I am, without masks, without performances, without the exhaustion of pretending to be better than I am or different from who I am. The cat that watches you already knows who you are. It saw your contradictions and remained. It saw your flaws and did not run away. It saw your raw humanity and chose to continue sharing space with you. That is the acceptance you seek, not the conditional acceptance of those who only love you when you're at your best, but the full acceptance of those who saw you at your worst and decided to stay. Death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back, Marcus Aurelius taught. And perhaps the deepest truth is this: life constantly observes you. All you can do is let yourself be seen. Stop hiding. Stop pretending. Stop carrying the exhaustion of maintaining an image that does not correspond to reality. The cat that looks at you when you are not looking is not your judge. It is your witness. Witness that you are human. Witness that you are real. Witness that you are worthy of being observed, exactly as you are. When you finally turn around and find those eyes fixed on you, there is a choice to be made. You can feel uncomfortable, exposed, caught red-handed, Or you can recognize the gift that is being offered, the opportunity to be known, completely, without editing, without filters. True happiness is independent of the opinion of others, Marcus Aurelius wrote. But perhaps it is even deeper than that. Perhaps true happiness is independent of your own opinion of yourself. Perhaps it is the peace of being observed by eyes that do not need you to be perfect, that do not need you to be consistent, that do not need you to be anything other than what you already are. The cat that looks at you when you are not looking is a teacher of radical acceptance, not just the acceptance that you must have for others, but the acceptance that you can have for yourself, the acceptance of being human, of being contradictory, of being real. Its silence is not judgment, it is recognition. I see you, I know who you are, and here I am. Like if you have ever felt that silent gaze that knows who you are when you think no one is watching. Comment if you recognize that the moments of greatest truth happen when you forget to have an audience. And share with those who still believe they can hide from themselves and don't realize that someone is always watching.